Hello and welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 85. Thank you for joining me in my hotel room in San Francisco. It's late at night and I'm here in my fancy bed trying to pump out another show for you guys. We just arrived in San Francisco, I want to say a couple hours ago, earlier this afternoon. We've been training at the Logitech office. Thank you for that, Logitech. And kind of readjusting to the American jet lag as we prepare for the World Championship tournament to start. It's really crazy walking around the hotel and seeing so many pros and teams that you kind of know. You feel like you know because you know their stories, but you've never actually met them. And you get to see my microphone today because I don't have something to like set it on to hold it close to my face. So there it is. Yeah, I get to share a room with Max. So if you hear him chuckling over there, he's just reading about the presidential debates on Reddit, I think. And why don't we kick it off? So the first question today comes from Twitter, xpatoayk. xpatoayk. Xpatoayak. Eek. Toi. Anyway, he says, "Hi. So I have a tournament in 8 hours and I feel a lot of pressure from my teammates and friends. They expect me to win, even I expect me to win, but I know it's not going to be an easy match. What can I do?" I've had this conversation with some of my athletes before during the season, and one of the problems with having a fan base that really believes in you and really wants the best for you is that they kind of assume that you're going to win. And a lot of times we get into this mindset ourselves. And the number one important thing is, first of all, that you have to play for yourself. When your parents expect you to win, your teammates expect you to win, your friends expect you to win, you have to realize the only thing that you can do is let them down. The only thing you can do is either equal their expectations. They all expect you to win, so then you win, and then you equal them, and then they're just like, okay, of course, that's what I expected to happen, or you let them down. There is no way to make them happy. It's impossible. There's no universe in which you supersede their expectations if those are their expectations. So you have to reorient in that you're playing solely for yourself. And I know that you say that even I expect me to win, but I know it's not going to be an easy match. If you know it's not going to be an easy match, you don't really expect yourself to win. Look within and you'll see that you are evaluating your probability of winning and you're hoping you're going to win. Hope is very different from expectation. And so treat it as that and use it to kind of drive you and say well, if I hope that I'm going to win, I need to put in the work to kind of get closer to that. That reality that I hope for myself. There are actions that you can take every single day, every single minute that bring you closer and closer to your hopes. But usually when the hopes become expectations, then you start to look at yourself as already there, already perfect, already doing the things that you need to do. And the only thing you can do is try to not slough off, which is kind of the opposite way that you want to be thinking about training in the first place. Okay, the second question comes from White X Hark. White like the color, X, and then Hark. Hark! Hark there, young squire. And he asks, or she asks, "After I watched a video where you said not to focus on the mechanics of your performance, I can't stop. Help!" This reminds me of a story that I told the team in Korea. It was a Buddhist story, and I was borrowing stories from Zen Buddhism because we were in Korea, and mindfulness is something that we've been focusing on a lot throughout the split, and something that I focused on a lot since around 2011 when it kind of came on my radar. And the story goes something like this. A farmer wanted to find wisdom. I'm paraphrasing here, so I hope that I get it close. And he went and found a Buddhist monk, and he asked him, "Please teach me a mantra or a meditation to bring me to nirvana." And the monk says, "Okay, here's a meditation. Do this, and you will find peace in nirvana. All you have to do is not think of a monkey." And so the farmer goes, "Well, that's going to be easy. I mean, I've never thought of a monkey before. I don't really need to worry about it." And he goes home and he tries to meditate and he starts thinking of a monkey and he stops. He says, "Well, maybe if I wait till the evening, the monkeys will be tired, then go to sleep and they'll stop bothering my brain." So he waits till the evening and he starts meditating and he can't stop thinking of monkeys. And he goes the next day to the monk. He says, "Help! I can't stop thinking of monkeys." And I think that's basically the moral of the story. I forget how the story ends, but it's something like, see? Told you so. I think essentially there's like a line that goes, the escape from craziness, the escape from pondering, escape from contemplation is only found in adoration of the present moment, in immersing yourself in the now and escaping from thought, from pondering, from immaterial things in your mind can only be found in reality, and gazing in awe at what is happening around you and in your body. So that is the release that the monk was trying to teach, and he was saying, like, it's not easy. It's something you have to do and train and constantly push yourself towards. And so the escape from focus on mechanics is to try to focus on everything. So you're not focusing on mechanics, you're focusing on movement in the present. And I want you to try to broaden your lens. So if it's too narrow, there's a difference between noticing and focusing. I think what you're talking about is, this is the only thing I can notice is my mechanics, or think about. It's the only thing dwelling in my mind. And so instead of dwelling on it, I want you to open up your blinders, like if you're a horse running down the street and you have those things that keep you from spooking. I want you to notice like the other parts of your movement. Notice your breath, notice the sound. I was working with a CSGO team once, and I asked them to look at their monitor and tell me what they saw. And they described everything within a box. And I said, now look at your monitor and describe everything that you see. And they were able to describe basically everything from about here forward. They could see the wall behind their monitor. They could see their fingers. They could see their keyboard. They could see the keys on the keyboard. They could see everything to the side and the other side and up and down. You see all of that when you're playing. When you're focused on the screen, all of that information is like going in your hands. You actually see your fingers moving on the keyboard. Try it right now. Look dead in the middle of your screen. Put your hands on the keyboard and wiggle them around. You see your fingers, right? Without moving your eyes. This is actually happening. You actually see them. You just don't notice them because you're dwelling so much on one specific thing. So I want you to open up your blinders. I want you to try to incorporate as much physical sensation and physical and sensory information as you possibly can into your body, into your mind, into your focus. And I want you to try to live in that moment and let yourself play in an automated way. And of course, you need to be drawn into focus on very specific actions. You need to try really hard to do like a specific outplay or to practice a last hit. But I want you to do that while incorporating as many stimulus as you can from the other sensory experiences. And that will broaden what you can focus on. And eventually, those should be other strategies or other movements. Like, I want to pay attention to the opponent mid laner while I'm CSing. Okay, now I want to pay attention to their cooldowns while I'm paying attention to my cooldowns. And you keep adding things to your kind of registry instead of narrowing down. Okay, the next question is from Luck LO_OL, which looks like two eyes and a guy like raising his hands up in the air. And they ask, do you think LOL, League of Legends, will be relevant or as big as it is now in 2 to 6 years? 2 to 6 years, yes. Relevant and as big as it is now or bigger. I can't really predict after that. This is kind of the first time that this has happened. My guess, though, is that gaming companies have changed. It used to be that you'd have to release a game and then eventually it would like age out, right? But like, go back and look at the first videos of League of Legends. You'll see that it's not the same game. It's League of Legends like 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, whatever it is. It's being upgraded from within every release. So it's always going to be up to date, like visually and technology-wise, and they can always just rewrite the game if they want to keep it kind of up to date. They never have to start over. So technically speaking, that is a feat that we can accomplish nowadays and re-deliver the game to everybody that's in it. And it's going to keep expanding and growing. So it is a really big question of whether or not it will maintain its kind of peak in terms of the marketplace. And that really depends on the competitors that come up and how innovative Riot can be. But of course, it won't be forever because nothing ever is. And in a marketplace, I expect it to fall more swiftly than culturally defined sports. So culturally defined sports like baseball was our parents' generation, football was my generation, basketball is the next generation. Like these are cultural movements in sport in terms of like what is popular. Boxing, for example, has fallen out of favor for MMA in like a cultural swing. I expect similar cultural swings in esport, but much more rapidly because the marketplace is demanding. And the marketplace gives people ideas, and then competitors arise, and then things get diluted. And like if somebody comes along and invents a better game than Riot, a better version of League of Legends to replace the MOBA scene, it will be very ruthless. It won't be like it is in sport, where we carry on traditions for generation. It'll be much more like the market says, nope, this is worse, this is better, and kills it, because money is what drives a company. So yeah, so I expect it to be as relevant for as long as they can sustain it, and then when the market decides that it's over, it's going to end pretty swiftly. Of course, there will be a cultural imprint upon a certain generation. Like we will always be the League of Legends generation, and that will never change. But it'll probably like carry on to kind of like the next version of whatever it is, whether it's League again or League continually, if they stay on top, or whether it's the next MOBA in a way. Okay, thanks for that question. That was a good one. Next question is from Arturi Mantila, which I assume is Mantila. If I'm saying that correctly in Finnish. And it's ARTTURI_MANTYLA. And he asks, I know it's a guy this time because I know Finnish names, how can I achieve success and be better, for example, at school? I don't know what blocks me from learning. Good question. Is it that something blocks you from learning, or that learning is something you have to go and do and take always? I think it's the second one. You don't really get blocked from learning. You kind of stop doing the things that naturally lead to learning as you get older. Exploration and play and finding joy in the pursuit of things you don't know. And partly that's enforced upon us by society and structure, and partly that's enforced upon us by the fact that we outgrow knowledge that can be acquired without extensive study. So by that I mean that you can learn things more swiftly at the basic levels, and then it gets more and more complex, and you get the joy of that moment of epiphany. You get the joy of that learning that thing, but it takes groundwork. It takes like 5, 10, 15 hours of groundwork, and then eventually 5, 10 days of groundwork, and then eventually 5 weeks or months of groundwork before you get to that epiphany moment. As you age and as your knowledge kind of layers up. So a couple things you can do. One is find tasks that you're always learning as a beginner. So like study new languages all the time, study new sciences all the time, study new hobbies all the time. Become a photographer this week, learn a bunch about that and immerse yourself in it, and then go become a beginner in something else. And you find that joy very swiftly in the exploration of that thing, but then carry that into the thing that you want to do in a complex level, and understand that it takes sometimes months of investment in like putting your nose to the grindstone and layering up that kind of like those kind of like psychological constructs of knowledge to get to the point where you get the next epiphany in your trade or in the task that you want to take to a world-class level. And when you achieve success, I think success is like determined in large part by you and how happy you are. So that's a really weird kind of thing to out. But if you want to be better at school is a simple system. Like it's a rules-based system. You study the allotted hours, you take the allotted tests, you get a score, they rank you against other people, and then you leave. And like it's not really something. I guess you can strive to be better at it because it's there. You can choose to be better at it if you want to. Just follow the rules. The rules are the more you study, and the harder you study, and the more properly you study, the higher rank you get, according to everybody else. So if you want to succeed at school and you want to be better at school, break the system of school by just doing it better than your peers. It's quite simple in that it's like a zero-sum game. Like if you want to be better than your peers, all you have to do is study more than them and better than them and longer than them. Longer than them, better than them, and like more intensely than them. and eventually you'll kick that forward. Might not happen right away because maybe their whole life they've been learning like more efficiently than you, so they have a big head start. So you might have to put in like a year before you like catch up, and like you might have to put in 3 years before you supersede them. But it's kind of a known system, so feel free to master it if you want. Hack it away. Okay, next question is from Chris Klin 1, CRISCKLIN 1. And he asks, do you think Riot should award split winners with protection from relegation for the next split or two? No, I like cutthroat systems. I don't mind like winning and then sucking. I think that like excellence is achieved consistently. So if you build an excellent system, it will be fairly consistent. I don't like I think if a sport is going to have relegations, everybody should be in the pot. It shouldn't be that there's immunity for some. And if a sport shouldn't have relegations, or doesn't have relegations, then it just shouldn't. So there's security or there's insecurity, and that's kind of like what makes it fun to me. Okay, next question is from LOL Knox, LOLKNOXX. And they ask, how can I effectively communicate to my team what needs to be done next in the game if they are tilted and not wanting to listen? So usually I answer this question by saying that when somebody is like tilted or not wanting to listen, it's just a bigger challenge. When somebody is coachable, anybody can coach them. When somebody is uncoachable, you have to be better to coach them. When somebody is like impossible to coach, you have to be amazing to coach them. So if you want to communicate with a team of like avid listeners who are going to follow every word you say, it's easy. You just say words and they listen and you do it, right? If you want to communicate to people who don't want to listen to you, then you have to be a better communicator. You have to figure out, first ask yourself this, is my objective that I feel good for saying the thing that I'm saying? Or is my objective that my teammates' behavior changes? Okay, important distinction. If the important thing is that your teammates' behavior changes, then you have to say the thing that they need to hear or they want to hear to change their behavior. You don't get to say the thing that you want to say to change their behavior. You have to say the thing that they want to hear to change their behavior. If your primary driving goal and motivation is to change their behavior, if it's not, if it's actually selfish, if it's like, well, I just want to tell them this thing so I feel better about it, and if they don't listen, it's just they're not a good listener, then you're not being like self-aware and honest about like what it is that's truly driving you. Or it's driving you, but like you can't contain that like kind of egotistical part of you and subvert it to the mission. So if the mission is behavior change, let's say that's the mission, then you got to explore and investigate your teammate and find out what it is that they need to hear in that moment to empower them and help them over the hurdle into the next action, which is like closer to what will win the game. Okay, it's not going to be like the ideal one usually right away, but it's going to be closer to the one that's to the one that you want, and then you kind of lead them there. So that's basically like empathetic and emotional leadership. And that's something that you can practice and get better at. And just ask yourself, like, first start with yourself. If I was in that situation, what are the things that make me feel good? What are the things that help me overcome the frustration that I'm feeling and like move to the next step of like being like, okay, yeah, maybe I made a mistake and trying to change. And then try to put yourself in your friend's shoes and think like, okay, well, how would they want that phrased from me? What would they want to hear to like boost themselves up to the point where they can start being self-critical again? Because the real problem that you have is like they can't criticize themselves, which is what they need to do when they're being attacked on all sides. That's a really common thing. So a lot of times you need to like be the safe space for them so that they can feel empowered and they can attack themselves again and self-criticize themselves to grow. So that is one kind of way to look at it too. Okay, final question from Alex609414. Thank you. I suppose there's a lot of Alexes out there, approximately 609,414 of them. Anyway, this Alex asks, how do I go about getting into esports psychology? I'm currently in my senior year of high school, and I don't know what to major in for it. Okay. So I did sports psychology by majoring in English and math, working as a teacher for 5 years, as a sport coach for 2 years, and then going back for my master's degree in sports psychology with no background in psychology. I taught in the master's program to a student whose name I'm not going to say out loud, but anyway, let's just say it starts with a T. And he did his bachelor's in sports, in like psychology, sports psychology, which is very rare. It's very rare to find a school that has a bachelor's degree in sports psychology. Usually you have to major in, I don't know, sport or kinesiology or biomechanics or psychology, and then like transition to sports psychology at the master's level. So you can look around, see if there's universities or programs, like bachelor's level programs with majors in sports psychology, but likely there's not. I would encourage you to get some of the skills that you need to kind of build your own performance coaching brand. So first of all, start coaching now, get lots of experience at it. So like go to a university where you can do intramurals and lead teams and coach in your sport. And then study leadership, study business, study psychology, obviously, if you want to, and study most of all neuroscience and biology, because psychology is slowly going to get kind of destroyed as we learn more and more about the brain. We're going to need to know less and less about the software as we learn about the hardware. Okay, so neuroscience, as we get faster and faster computers and better ways of like looking into the brain, is going to replace psychology with concrete answers instead of guesses about what's going on. And if you study now for psychology, in this movement is like going forward very swiftly, not that swiftly, but pretty swiftly. Like eventually you're going to be like 30 years into your trade and you're going to be like, oh, I don't know anything about cell membranes and protein folding. And now I need to know that because it's all about neurotransmitters and how they're made out of proteins. So gosh, I got to go back to organic biology now. So I would encourage you to start with the biological side of the brain. And then if you want to be a performance coach in any sport, you have to start your own business. There's no such thing as a job for what I do. There's no team that's out there that's like, hey, we have a position here and we want to fill it. Most of the people who are doing something similar to what I do are a coach. So you got to be a coach of a sport, which means that you're not going to be making any money until you're like mid to late 30s. Just FYI. That's coaching career trajectory. Just that's how most coaching goes. You're an athlete, you start coaching amateur level at the age of 15-ish. You start coaching like kind of more seriously, in your mid 20s. You start like coaching as an assistant coach for a head coach in like your early 30s. You get a head coach or a program coach or like an assistant to a head coach in like your mid to late 30s. You start making an actual salary. And then in your 40s, you might become a head coach. So that's like coaching career. All right. And then for performance coaching, where you're just like helping a bunch of people and you're helping them with a specific thing like resilience or mindset or like a specific skill like physical training. Okay, physical training is different. Sometimes there's a lot of jobs for that, but like if it's brain related or performance related, you're going to have to start your own business and like market yourself and make your own service products and sell them to people. So you're going to need to know about like entrepreneurship and online business. And you basically learn about that by doing it. So you could just start doing it now and then you'd know about it. Or you could go study it, which in my opinion is both good and also kind of a waste of time. But it's also good because I studied it for years while I was doing it at the same time. So I feel like I learned twice as fast. But if you study it at school, but you also do it at the same time you're studying it, that's great. Okay, because then you have resources, you have peers who are doing it, and you have peers you can show up by showing up to class and being like, haha, look what I'm doing in my free time. So yeah, thanks for coming to the show today, and I hope you enjoyed it. I went through 6 questions, might have been a little bit long, but I am trying to make each show a little bit longer so that I can get through this backlog of questions I have. And if I'm a little bit off on the delivery, it's kind of late here. It's about 50 minutes after midnight, and we're still jet lagging strongly from Korea. But now I have this amazingly comfortable bed that Riot put us up in for the San Francisco, I think, We're kind of like in the downtown. It's a pretty nice hotel. There's a lot of shops nearby. I went and bought a suit today. Now I have a suit. I'm not going to go on stage with it because that's Parth's job right now. But hopefully I'll look dapper at the venue. Anyway, sure beats I think the jeans I was wearing before, which, to be honest, like I don't think the dress has a lot to do with performance in sport. So this is just me like taking advantage of the fact that in San Francisco suits are cheap and there was a buy one get one free, and Parth needed one to go on stage in the first place. So yeah, I just wanted to like split it with him. All right, guys. Hope you have a good night, and I will see you next time. Oh, wait, I forgot. I forgot to talk about my sponsors. It's that time of the video, everybody. Sponsors. Okay. Find out more at mindgames.gg, my website. And I have a mailing list, which I use to teach you about my favorite tools and recommendations in terms of books and reading. So you can find the link down below. And I'm still working on the very first email, but I have like a list of all the emails that you're going to get in terms of like the books. So first I'm going to send you a list of books, my reading list. But then I'm going to summarize each of them so you don't actually have to read them, or you can read the summary or the synopsis and decide, oh, I want to read the whole thing. So that's a big advantage, right? Because like there's a lot of fluff in some of these books that is not necessary. So I'm going to try to save you that time. Next one is the 5-minute journal, which I use with all the pro teams I've worked with. 5 minutes to make your life a better life. And I used it on myself, and I started recommending it to my friends. And down below, you'll find the affiliate link, which you can buy the 5-minute journal at for yourself on my recommendation. And then the MAC program, which is my flagship program on mental resilience and mindfulness. So it's 47 sessions, 1 video session every day, mindfulness training, the same mindfulness training I do with athletes, and then a combination of teaching after that. So like it might be anywhere from 5 to 10, sometimes 15 minutes of mindfulness combined with 5 to 10 to 15 minutes of like teaching on the topics of mindfulness, acceptance, commitment, which are the 3 kind of important components of grit, I would say. Okay, now for real, good night, and I'll see you guys.
Hey guys, I just want to encourage you to follow me on Snapchat so you can keep track of all of the cool adventures that I have in places like Korea, where we're training right now, and so that you can basically like ask me questions and follow along with kind of like behind the scenes of high performance coaching life.